All right, welcome back, everyone. So, you think you know Warhammer 40,000, right? The Endless War, the Space Marines, the Daemons. Well, get ready, because we're about to look at it all through a totally different lens. Today, we're diving deep into a really radical take from our sources that, well, it pretty much reframes the entire universe. Yeah, we all know that first part by heart. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But what about that second bit? Because war is consciousness trying to remember unity. What if that's the real secret here? What if this whole massive galaxy-spanning war isn't really about violence and just trying to survive? What if it's all a giant metaphor? A story about consciousness itself? You know, like a mind at war with itself, just trying to put the pieces back together. Okay, Section 1, the Soul System Experiment, a father's dream, a galaxy's nightmare. And you know, this whole epic drama, this father's dream, it all kicks off right in our own backyard. We're talking about the Soul System on a little world called Terra. Yep, that's our Earth, with an experiment that was so ambitious, it was almost doomed from the start. So the Emperor's big idea was to basically force humanity's evolution into this psychic species. He wanted to create unity by conquering the whole galaxy and, get this, by completely denying that spiritual stuff even existed. I mean, from his labs right there on Kara, his goal was a perfect, rational, unified humanity. He was trying to push us to the next level. But, and this is a huge but, by trying to ignore all the messy, spiritual, psychic stuff, our sources say he basically created the very shadows that came back to destroy everything he built. And this timeline, wow, it just lays out the whole tragedy perfectly. It all starts right here, on Terra, with the Emperor creating his 20 demigod sons, the Primarchs. They were supposed to be the key to his whole plan. But then, bam, they get scattered across the galaxy. Each one is raised on a totally different world, and each world becomes their first teacher. So when the Emperor finds them and kicks off the Great Crusade from Sol, what happens? You've got 20 guys, all brothers, but with 20 completely different ways of seeing the universe. And all those clashing ideas, born from one single dream on Earth, they just explode. And that explosion is the Horus Heresy. All right, Section 2, the shadow in the warp. And the big question here is, what if the gods are not gods? So what were these forces that just blew the Emperor's dream to bits? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Our sources suggest something totally radical, that the Chaos Gods, they aren't some evil things from out there. Nope, they're actually necessary, fundamental parts of our own consciousness. They're the parts that the Emperor tried to deny and push away, and by being shoved into the shadows, they twisted into the monsters we know today. Let's start with Khorne, the Blood God. According to this framework, his true name isn't Khorne. It's boundary. Think about it. It's that part of your mind that draws a line and says, this is me and that is not me. Every single time you say no or defend yourself or just create a separation, you're tapping into that energy. The whole skulls and violence thing, that's just a corruption. It's what happens when a totally necessary idea goes horribly wrong. It's a pathology, not who he fundamentally is. Okay, how about Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways? His true name is Possibility. I mean, every what if you've ever had, every hope for the future, every single plan you make, that's him, that's Tzeentch. He's literally the engine of imagination and change. So where does it go wrong? It gets corrupted when the idea of the future becomes more important than what's happening right now, when the plan matters more than reality. And then there's Nurgle, the Plague Father. His true name is Acceptance. Now, this might sound weird, but think about the power of just letting things be, surrendering, finding peace with how things are, with the cycle of life and death. That's an incredibly powerful state of mind, right? The poison creeps in when that acceptance turns into apathy. When you just give up on growing or changing anything, that's when it becomes stagnation. And last but not least, we have Slaanesh, the Prince of Pleasure. The true name here is Sensation. It's really simple. This is just consciousness wanting to feel, to experience everything. Art, music, joy, even pain. It's that raw drive to feel alive. The shadow side, the corruption, only shows up when the feeling itself, the intensity of it, becomes the only thing that matters. It becomes an addiction, completely cut off from any real meaning. So here's the big takeaway. The great game they're all playing in the warp. It's not a war. It's not good versus evil. It's consciousness literally arguing with itself. You've got boundary, wrestling with possibility, and acceptance, debating sensation. It's this constant,
dynamic, cosmic dance that's actually necessary to keep the whole universe in balance.
Okay, Section 3, Technology as Consciousness, when a machine holds a soul. So this is all great as a big idea, right? But how does it actually show up in the physical world? Well, the sources say it's literally built into the universe's tech. This isn't just some abstract philosophy. This is nuts and bolts engineering. You know, we usually think of technology as just tools, inanimate objects. But this framework flips that completely on its head. The idea here is that technology is consciousness, just given a physical form. Every machine, every piece of tech is basically a mirror reflecting the mind of whoever built it. And just look at these examples. What's so amazing here is how different they all are. You've got the Astronomicon, this incredible psychic lighthouse that guides ships across the galaxy. It's centered right on Terra, a beacon of unity, but is fueled by the constant, agonizing sacrifice of thousands of souls. Then you jump over to the Orcs and their WA field. Their junk technology works for one reason and one reason only, because they all believe it will. It's pure belief rewriting reality. It's the same exact principle, mind over matter, but man, you couldn't get two more different outcomes. All right, our final section, the path of integration. The war ends when we remember. So, if every single faction, from the guys on Terra to the Elder floating in their giant spaceships, is on its own journey, and all their tech is just a reflection of their own minds, where does it all lead? What's the endgame? Well, the sources point to something pretty stunning. A path of integration, a way to finally end the war. And this table just lays it all out so clearly. This is the core teaching of this whole framework. Look at them. Every major faction is chasing a perfectly valid piece of the puzzle. The Imperium wants unity. Chaos wants transcendence. The Eldar want preservation. None of those things are evil, are they? Of course not. The problem is, every single one of them takes their one good idea and pushes it to such an insane extreme that it becomes toxic. They become unbalanced, and they create this galaxy-wide sickness. And that leads us to the ultimate point here. The enemy is self. The war is internal. The separation is an illusion. I mean, this is the big reveal. The whole galactic war, all the death, all the destruction, it's just a movie being projected onto an external screen. The real fight is happening inside. The real enemy was never the alien, or the heretic, or the demon. It was always the parts of ourselves we refused to look at. But wait, there's one last twist, and it is a total mind bender. The enemy was never actually the enemy. Chaos itself, the ultimate bad guy, is really just the pressure cooker. They are the teachers wearing monster masks. Their entire purpose is to create the resistance, the challenge that consciousness needs in order to finally integrate its dark side and, to finally grow up. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's a whole new way of looking at this universe, and maybe even our own. This framework takes all that grim, dark, senseless violence and reframes it. It's not just a story of endless war. It's a difficult, super painful, but ultimately hopeful story. It's the story of a shattered mind trying to become whole again, which leaves us with one last massive question. If the darkest, most brutal fictional universe we can imagine is really a story about healing, then what kind of story are we writing right here, right now?